What's a product that sucked really bad but people still bought it? A couple of things come to mind, like hoverboards that kept catching on fire, Nickelodeon moon shoes that broke everybody's ankles, and the absolute worst is weighted blankets. Why? Using a weighted blanket nearly killed me. When I was a kid I had a lot of sensory issues, so for most of my childhood I was the spawn of Satan to my parents cause I couldn't sleep and would cry at night. It was only until I was 8 that I was properly diagnosed with autism, which meant my parents had to accustom me to new things. One of those things being regularly seeing a psychiatrist and sleep specialist. My parents were instructed to provide me with deep touch therapy. For those who don't know what deep touch therapy is, it's the use of cuddling or sleeping with something firm so that it calms your nervous system. Many people with anxiety need deep touch therapy and don't even know it. It's not constricted to people with autism. At the time, the big thing was to buy a weighted blanket. I mean, Americans were obsessed with weighted blankets, which was everyone's go-to buy on Black Friday to gift for Christmas. My parents figured that getting me a weighted blanket would be sufficient for deep touch therapy. I used the blanket every night for about a month and my sleeping was starting to get better. I no longer had to listen to white noise or play on my 3DS to go to sleep. I just put my blanket on and within a matter of minutes, I was ready. One night my father went away on a work trip and I decided to sleep with my mom for a night. She and I slept under my weighted blanket, but the next thing I knew I was coughing. I was breathing heavily and I started to see red. When I woke up I was in the hospital with a breathing mask over my face. My mom was crying when I woke up. She wouldn't tell me what happened then, but later on she told me that when she left to use the bathroom, she accidentally folded the weighted blanket and threw it over me. When she came back she heard me rustling asleep under the blanket, and when she lifted it, I was turning purple. The doctors said that I nearly passed away from the asphyxiation and it was a miracle my mother came to me in time. Afterward, my mother threw out the weighted blanket. I can't believe I'm admitting this right now, but I slept with my mom until I was 18. The thing is, the guilt of her nearly killing me weighed on her for years. She would wait for me to sleep first some nights, and throughout the week I'd see dark circles under her eyes. My father begged for my mom to go to therapy, but she refused and said that she already decided she'd never forgive herself for almost killing her daughter. When I moved out for college, my first night was terrible. The anxiety was overwhelming and I couldn't stop vomiting. It was so bad I said screw it, I'm old enough, I'm just gonna get a weighted blanket. Until I looked one up and saw that 2 girls died from sleeping under a weighted blanket, also from asphyxiation. Immediately the trauma kicked back in and I turned the idea away of having a weighted blanket in my life ever again. When I called my dad he told me that my mom had it just as bad as I did. The separation anxiety was almost too much for her. But he got something for her that seemed to be working like a charm. He sent me a sleep pod he bought online and I thought it was a glorified Snuggie, but y'all, when I started using it, I had one of the weirdest sleeping experiences ever. It felt like I was hugging someone, but I knew I was hugging myself. It was like the voices screaming at me died down, like I could put everything behind me. My dad tells me that my mom doesn't even cuddle with him sometimes. He finds it funny how attached she is to the sleeping pod. I thought it would trigger my mom, but it's a light blanket so she doesn't have to worry about it weighing too much. I genuinely felt well rested, but my roommate was so confused about my switch up. She told me that she was annoyed with my nonstop crying at night at first, but found it interesting that I became a morning person. I got enough sleep and I didn't need an alarm. I explained to her that I slept next to my mom for basically all my life, so I've had a lifetime of sleeping anxiety and trauma that's been holding me back. She actually wasn't weirded out though. She lost her mom when she was young, so she understood the craving for a warm hug to bed. I told her that she could try out my sleep pod if she wanted, and the very first night I heard her crying in bed. When I checked on her, she told me she was okay. She just felt the relief she hadn't felt in years. It warms my heart to know that not only have I been able to heal my sleeping issues, but I helped out my new friend's traumas too. What she doesn't know is that I'm gonna surprise her before finals with her own sleeping pod. She's been so anxious about finals, but I know for a fact after I get her one she'll do just fine.